Viture finally dropped their new flagship XR glasses and they literally called it the Beast. They're claiming this is their largest, sharpest and brightest display ever, with something Viture users have been asking for a long time: built-in 3DOF. No software required. I've been using these for a few weeks now, mostly for work and media, and while this is Viture's best on paper, there are some very real trade-offs you should know about before buying. I'm Cass, 9 years in XR, honest reviews, real trade-offs, subscribe and join me beyond reality. Alright, let's start with the unboxing because yes, this is kind of a sexy box. Inside you get the Viture Beast XR glasses, regular or large. I have the regular here. Prescription lens frame, swappable nose pads, USB-C to USB-C cable, hard glasses case, cleaning cloth, quick start guide and safety info. Now, I really love this box design. I think it actually matches the name The Beast because it's kind of bold, dark and a little aggressive. The case has these subtle black on black spots, almost like pentaskin, very fitting. And then there are those blue accents, the little blue button. Up front there are some little blue details and even the cleaning cloth is blue. I think it's elegant but also kind of confident. I'll allow it. The frame itself is made from an ultralight magnesium alloy with a matte finish. Compared to the other Viture Luma glasses, these immediately feel more solid, like they're protecting something serious inside, which they are. At its core, the Beast is still a USB-C display mirroring XR glass, so you plug it into laptops, phones, tablets, handhelds, anything that supports USB-C DisplayPort and HDMI via adapter. Viture did drop the magnetic cable this time and there are no side LEDs anymore, which I kinda miss, but hey, it's not like you see it when you're wearing these. But here's the big difference. Compared to their previous glasses, the Beast has native XR computing power built into the glasses themselves. That means built-in 3DOF tracking without needing extra software, apps, installs or extra adapters. This alone changes how you use these glasses. But before we go deeper, quick shout out to today's sponsor because fittingly enough, it's also kind of a beast. This is the Antigravity A1, the world's first 8K 360 drone. What really makes this special for me is how it feels to fly. With the drone, the vision goggles and the grip controller, you're not just controlling a camera, you feel like you're actually up there. You look around naturally and every time I get this little adrenaline kick because it feels like a VR game, but then it hits you. This is real. You're flying over real buildings, real nature. That part still kind of blows my mind. Flying is also surprisingly easy, and because the 360 camera captures everything around you, you can just focus on the experience and worry about framing later in post. They also just added a built-in flight simulator inside the VR headset, which mirrors the real physics of the A1. It's perfect for practicing without risking a crash, and yes, Imperial units are finally here too. Until February 9th, all Antigravity A1 bundles are 15% off, and you also get a free anti-gravity landing pad using the link below. Now, let's get back to our other slick setup. The Beast uses Sony's latest micro OLED displays paired with Viture's own optical system. They switched to prism lenses instead of birdbath optics, but they went with fairly large prisms. Because of that, the overall form factor does not feel much smaller than birdbath-based designs. You really notice this when you put it next to something like the XREAL One Pro, which uses much smaller prism lenses. That said, this choice may be exactly how Viture was able to push the field of view wider. The Beast has a 58-degree field of view. Viture says this is equivalent to a 174-inch screen at 4 meters. It is only about 1 degree wider than the XREAL One Pro, but it is still the widest field of view Viture has ever shipped. Resolution also goes up to 1200p, brightness goes up to 1250 nits. And as a quick reference, the Luma Ultra is the brightest at 1500 nits, the Beast is next and all the others cap out at about 1000. Audio is still handled by Harman with spatial sound, acoustic shielding and reverse audio cancellation. And like the Ultra, you also get a built-in microphone. The Beast is priced at $550 and ships in March. It comes in 2 sizes. The regular size supports IPDs from 58 to 70 and the large size supports IPDs from 62 to 74. But this is where the beast really separates itself, because the processing now happens directly on the glasses. You can customize the screen using the buttons on the frame. To make things easier, there's a full on-screen display menu. From there you can adjust screen distance, change the screen size, enable 120Hz, switch color profiles, turn on 3D mode, and most importantly, you can switch between different tracking modes. You can do that in the menu, but also just with a button press. And those modes are great. Zero dov and smooth follow are your basic modes. In zero dov, the screen is glued to your face without stabilization, and in smooth follow, it gently follows your head with stabilization. They're fine for casual media use, but not ideal for reading or productivity. Now, anchor mode is 3DOF, and this locks the screen in space, and then you can move your head and the screen stays put, which already feels great. The only thing you can do is lean in. Since it's not 6DOF, it doesn't track your body movement, it's just your head rotation. Then there is side mode, which shrinks the screen and pushes it to the sides. That is perfect for multitasking, messaging, or keeping an eye on something while doing other stuff like your cat or your wife. You can also enable ultra-wide mode directly on the glasses without any extra software. This only works on Mac and Windows though, but what it does is simple. Your computer switches to a very wide 32:9 screen, and that image gets mirrored into the glasses. But it turns off 120Hz, so you are locked to 60, and it's 1080p, so Windows might feel a bit cramped. Plus, you are still limited by the glasses' 58-degree field of view, so yes, the screen is ultra-wide, but you cannot see it all at once. You have to turn your head left and right to see the full width. Even though you can change the screen size and distance, it can still feel either too close or too small at times, especially for productivity. So this isn't really a replacement for a real ultra-wide monitor like the one behind me, but still, it's a super nice feature for when you're traveling with like a tiny laptop like mine. However, because all 3DOF tracking and processing happens directly on the glasses, latency is now lower and more consistent, because you're no longer sending sensor data to a device, processing it in the software, and then sending it back to the glasses. That reduction in pipeline delay is huge. In practice, I found that the screen is much more stable and smooth looking. There is less warping, way less drift. Now, there are still some slight warping artifacts, but they're minor enough that I honestly forget about them while working. Honestly, stabilization on the Beast is getting very on par with XREAL's level, which I never thought I'd say about Viture a year ago. Small interruption: if you enjoy someone getting this excited about built-in 3DOF, please hit like, because my friends stopped pretending this was normal years ago. The glasses also include an RGB camera on the front intended for mixed reality capture and basic 6DOF sensing later on. With 6DOF, the glasses would track your physical movement, not just your head rotation. That wouldn't change how much you can see at once, but it would make ultra-wide, for example, feel more natural to use. That functionality is not enabled yet and will require Viture software post-launch. We don't know if it's any good yet. Right now, if you want 6DOF, you will still need the Neckband Pro, but I'll talk more about that in a bit. Now, you also get 9 levels of electrochromic dimming, adjustable via button. It works really well. Sometimes I leave it undimmed for a pseudo AR effect, as it looks like I have my floating screens in my real space. What I like is the addition of automatic dimming transitions. You look away from the screen, the lenses go transparent automatically, so you can see your keyboard, your desk, or yes, something else. Look back and the lenses darken again automatically. This is one of the quality of life features that's just super nice. But let's talk about the display, because that's what you'll actually be staring at the whole time. Overall, the display quality is really solid. The colors look good and have a nice pop. Out of the box, it does lean a bit yellow for my taste, but you can fine-tune that directly in the menu using different color profiles, which helps depending on what you're doing. Sharpness is good for reading, and combined with the improved stabilization, it's comfortable to look at for longer sessions. The field of view also feels noticeably wider compared to Viture's previous glasses, which I really like. That said, I do notice some chromatic aberration at the far edges, especially when moving your head or reading text. I think this comes from the new lenses. It's noticeable, but it's not a deal breaker. I'm still perfectly fine using these for work, and for movies or videos, it's basically a non-issue. But this is where the trade-off becomes clear compared to the Luma Ultra. The Ultra looks sharper edge to edge, but it doesn't have stable built-in trade-off. With the Beast, you gain stability and flexibility, but you give up a bit of that optical perfection. I will say that for productivity, I will take onboard stabilization every time. For media, it matters less. There are also some screen reflections below the display, especially when looking at bright content. This seems common with prism lenses because it also happens on the XREAL One Pro. Again, not a deal breaker for me, but is something some people might be more sensitive to. Now, comfort does take a bit of tuning. You will want to try different nose pads, adjust the tilt of the temples, and make sure you can see the full display properly. Fortunately, Viture includes multiple nose pads, so dialing this is doable. After a few hours though, I do feel pressure behind my ears where these ear tips land. At that point, comfort drops and I usually need to take them off. It's not quite like wearing regular glasses all day. But Viture did mention that my early review unit is slightly heavier, about 2 grams. That's not much, so I'm not sure how noticeable the difference will be in final units, but a gram is still a gram, especially on your face. Also keep in mind, these glasses do not have built-in diopter adjustment, so if you need the prescription, you will have to use the prescription lens frame. The more interesting comparison for me is how the Beast stacks up against its closest competitor, the XREAL One Pro. XREAL, I think, still has an edge in a few areas. Edge quality and stabilization is slightly better. 6DoF is available earlier and their software feels more mature and less buggy. XREAL also recently added automatic 2D to 3D conversion directly on the glasses, which uses the chip, which is nice because it works without extra software. Viture's approach isn't on glasses yet and requires the immersive 3D app on Mac, Windows or iPhone, but the end result looks noticeably better. I think what surprised me most is how much Viture has closed the gap. The Beast now feels very on par with XREAL in daily use, especially once you look beyond the glasses themselves. And this is where Viture really differentiates itself. Their ecosystem adds a lot to the overall experience and the Beast fits into it extremely well. As I mentioned earlier, 3D content in general looks great on most display glasses, but Viture's 2D to 3D conversion remains one of the better implementations I've used. For gaming, the Beast works with the Nintendo Switch and Switch 2 through the Mobile Dock Pro. You plug it in and you're good to go. What's really unique is that the Mobile Dock Pro also supports co-op viewing, so you can connect 2 pairs of glasses at the same time and share the same screen. None of the other competitors are doing this right now, and I think it's genuinely cool. Then there's the optional Neckband Pro. It's basically a wearable Android tablet that adds Android apps, hand tracking, and full 6DoF. It's a separate device, but it turns the Beast into a much more standalone XR setup if that's what you want. Now, I've covered all these accessories in more detail in my Luma vs Ultra video, which I'll link below. So, on paper, this is Viture's best glasses so far, but like any XR glasses, it does come with trade-offs. It doesn't replace an ultra-wide monitor yet because it's still limited by field of view, but neither do its competitors. Comfort is good once tuned, but it's not something I would wear all day non-stop. And visually, if you're coming from another micro OLED XR glass, this won't blow your mind. But that's not really the point of the Beast. I think what Viture has done here is add a pair of glasses to their lineup that finally delivers a more stable, usable and flexible experience. Built-in trade-off without software, much better stabilization, solid on-glasses controls and access to Viture's ecosystem, that's the real upgrade. So if you travel a lot, work on the go or want light spatial computing without carrying a full headset, the Beast really earns its name. If you just want a screen glued to your face for movies or games, you probably don't need the Beast. Viture has cheaper glasses that already do that well. But let me know what you think in the comments, and if you've still got questions, drop them below, and if this helped, you know what to do, subscribe.